Hello, and welcome to an advanced invasion guide for Hearts of Iron 4, NoStepBack. This guide is for advanced players. Advanced players, you need to know the basics of every single mechanic. This is not a basic guide, this is an advanced guide. So with that, today we're going to be covering how to do advanced landing tactics and everything you need to go and do that. The situation in this game is a real one, and it is as follows. It is 1942 November, and the Soviet Union is dead. Okay? They are about to die. So in an MP game, people would be screaming for you to do a D-Day invasion right now in 1942. I don't have my guys fully prepared for this, but I have to go anyway, right? I only have 4 Marines, 6 paratroopers, I have 13 motorized, and I have barely 8 tanks, right? But it's the best I could scrape together in this time, which is an accurate scenario. If you're playing an MP game, you don't have the time to usually get everything perfect, but you just have to go with what you got, okay? So with that in mind, these are the sections that are going to be in this video. So we're going to be going over the intel that is required, the air tab, the air section of this, the Navy section of this, a landing prep on where to decide to land, the landing battle, and then the beachhead after that. So without further ado, here we go, off to the intel section. Okay, so the intelligence subsection of this. So basically what you need to do is in the beginning of the game, you need to get 100% on the people that you're trying to invade. So get their intel network at 100%, then put the dude on a quiet and just leave him there. This will get you the maximum benefit possible, which here it says 18.8 off from Intel network, and then it's 40 for Navy for some reason, and then it is only 14 for air. Okay, you need to get this because this is going to pull up a lot of information on the enemy that you're going to need to plan your naval invasion assault, right? We only get one shot at this, so that's what has to be remembered. The next thing we can do to buff this, there's a lot of things, but one of the things that you need to do is you need to run the operations. As you can see, I have all of them done for Germany, and what these ops are infiltrate Army, Navy, Air Force, and the civilian sector. What this does is it gives you an additional 10%, and it says from operations, and it's a 10% static bonus. And it gives it across the board if you infiltrate everyone, which is very helpful for planning out stuff like this. So after that, you need to, another way to boost your intel is to get your, you need to get spy aircraft, okay? And what you're doing with these spy aircraft is you're gathering even more intel on the enemy. So what does that mean? As you can see from the bonuses here, it says from air recon is plus 25 for Civ, and it's plus 20 for the Army, okay? So what we're doing is gathering even more intel on the enemy, right? So we can start seeing their divisions on the map, which is we're going to need to do this if we're going to land. Another thing we need to consider is radar, right? So we need to have our radar. If possible, you need to have as maximum radar as possible. It'll help reveal enemy units and get you more intel passively, as it does actually affect the amount of intel you can get. So from radar, it's 6.5% for England, okay? So after that, if all else fails and you still can't see enemy units on the coastline or wherever you need to, what you can do is pull out ships. What we're going to do here is we're going to send them on a mission, right? Usually you do this with a submarine. Right? And once they're out, you can see the enemy unit. As long as you have a unit as Navy ship adjacent to the enemy tire, you can see the enemy unit there. And it gives you their full stats, right? This is a quick way if you don't have time to build up. But for D-Day, you're going to need to build the time to build up, or it ain't going to succeed. If you do it out of a hurry, it ain't going to succeed at all, okay? One last thing to look at from the intel side of it is you need to try to deceive your enemy. What do we mean by that? Is if you're running ops, you need to be running ops periodically everywhere, okay? You need to deceive the enemy on where you're trying to actually land. If they know where you're going to land, it's all over. They'll just send tanks to the port and it's gone. Last thing is you need to build up your reserve pile of oil, okay? Before your invasion, you need 100% oil, preferably as much as you can get, because you're going to be using all of it, probably in the first landing zones. Okay, so with that, we're going to go on to the air section. Okay, so the air section of this. Basically what you need to do is, as we can clearly see right here, we have air superiority in all of these regions, and I don't know why it's not showing up in green. There we go. So what we need to do is have all these sections in green. Now, a thing you have to remember is you can't just immediately send 4,000 fighters into Western France and then land, because the enemy will know something is up and will send all their divisions in there immediately. You have to plan this over many, many months and even years if necessary. So how I started this was I fought to get control of Western France. Once I got control of Western France, I moved on to Northern France, right? So now the enemy is divided on their fighter aircraft, right? And this has been going on for 6 to 8 months now, okay? And then we have even more intel guys in Belgium. So what we're trying to do is divide the enemy forces, okay? And try and split them up in a way to where they don't know exactly where we're going to land. It's a bunch of whole deceiving, right? And we can even see where their fighters are stationed, right? This helps us planning out our strategic bombing. So another thing you have to take into account is where your strategic bomber is going to be deployed, okay? Usually, if there's two ways you can do this. So you need to build it up slowly. So you can send them in Germany and actually bomb them where they'll have more fighters to protect their industries and then leave a few bombers over here. But what I have done is I've just done it constantly, right? So I've been bombing these areas constantly. Now, they've eventually just let off Western France. It just depends on what the player is going to do against you, right? So usually you want to divide out your strat bombers and then slowly, ever so surely, every month add another 100 bombers. It's not going to affect the industry in such a way that the enemy is going to immediately know that you're bombing the land force and everything. But over time, it will help, right? And what we're trying to go for is over time, right? Because Germany's going to be dealing with this, the Soviet Union, right? They're going to be all focused on that, and they're just going to have a reserve over here, and that is it. So they're not going to be 100% paying attention. They'll look back every so often, right? So if they look at an air zone, and then all of a sudden it turns red for them, they know an invasion's coming, and they're going to stop you. So you have to let it simmer out, is basically what you need to do. So these bombers have been bombing for 8 months in this area, okay? What we have been able to do in these 8 months is they haven't sent a reserve over of enemy units, and we've been able to blow up their land forts, which is the most important factor when we're trying to land, right? And we've done it on the whole sector, which is what the whole point of the air campaign was. And then one last thing is you need to have all this set up way before in advance for your D-Day. You also need to cover the landing zone. So the English Channel needs to be covered by fighters. People forget this sometimes, and it leads to a disastrous invasion where the German player will see that you're crossing and send will send the reserve of naval bombers they have stationed but aren't doing anything into the English Channel. Since we know where their bombers are, we can exactly tell how many fighters we're going to need to stop their bombers, right? So 300 is enough. So this will shoot down the enemy naval bombers going after the ships, which will help your landing. Because if you don't do that, all your ships are going to die and it's going to end badly. Because remember, you only get one shot at a D-Day. One shot in a D-Day in MP. Otherwise, after that, it's over. Okay, so now we're going to go over to the Navy section. Okay, so the Navy section. What do we need to have set up for the Navy? All right, there's a whole bunch of factors that go into this. First of all, you need to have your recon fleets. They need to have been doing this constantly for around a year or longer, right? You need to sweep the area of enemy ships, and you need your strike forces to go find them and neutralize them. Now, usually Germany or Italy will build subs. So what you need to do is have your patrol fleets out, and you need to have a strike force of your hunter-killer destroyers, right? They need to be out, and they need to be killing the enemy subs. They need to be doing this for quite a while, right? Because we need to reduce their numbers of enemy subs they have, so they can't all pile them into the English Channel at the very last second and stop an invasion. Another thing you need to do is you need to set up the convoy escorts, right? So you need to do it way in advance, right? So this means you need to have cleared out the English Channel way in advance. That means enemy fighters and enemy ships need to be cleared out, okay? So we have gained air superiority, and we have naval superiority in the English Channel. Okay? The last thing you need to do, and you can set this up right before you go into your naval invasions, is you need to have invasion support. You need to have them with basically any heavy ship that has heavy guns can add to the shore bombardment, and you need to do that on your ships, okay? And they need to be able to support the landings. Because there's 3 different naval invasion orders, but these 2 orders, they're going to support the tanks that are going to be landing, okay? Or the Marines. Usually, the best thing would be 3, but we have 2. So they will escort these ones in on the attack and prevent them from getting absolutely decked on in case an enemy fleet comes out of nowhere, which the enemy fleets are dead. We've done our due diligence and they're all gone, okay? So now that we've set up the scouting, the convoy escorts, and the DD strike force, the last thing we need to do is one reminder basically is with your Navy, you can go scout. I showed it off in the intel section. The same premise. You basically are scouting out the enemy ports in case you need to find an area to land and you don't have intel or it's too far away. So an example like this will be Norway. It's too far away for me to actively get my radar over there. So our ships can easily tell us if there's enemies in the port. Just one last thing to remember. Okay, so now onto the actual landings. Okay, so the landings. What are some key factors that we need to consider when we're landing? Well, we need to have air superiority. We need to have the intel. We have all of that. We've been bombarding this sector for months. Their fort lines are damaged, right? We have intel. We have everything we need to do that has been pre-planned up to this point. But now we need to do the actual landings. So what do we need? Okay, well, it's 1942. We need mechanized. You need Amtracs. You're not going to land without Amtracs anymore. It's just not going to happen. Marines are not going to get you through. Now, I don't have the best because it's 1942 and this is a real game. And I didn't have time to get SP artillery, right? So we're just going to go with what we got. So we got rocket artillery, we got some flame tanks to help bust us down the wall, okay? Now with this, they've added the floating harbors, right? So you can do naval invasions or you can do floating harbors. If you have floating harbors like I do, I have 28 in reserve, which you need. You're going to need, just do one with a harbor. It's going to give you a little supply boost. So these Marines are going to land at Cherbourg, okay? But they're going to go in last. And what do I mean by that? Is they're not going in at the same time as the other units are going to go in, okay? So what does that actually mean? These units are going to go with floating harbors, right? And we need to find a landing zone, right? A landing zone without any unit on it, right? So these tanks are going to land here, and they're going to go attack Cherbourg, okay? Once they are attacking Cherbourg, then the Marines will land at the exact same time. So this is a planned out time, right? Event. So those tanks are going to go there. And then these two tanks are going to do the exact same thing, right? Just on the other side. They're going to land there. So what's going to happen is these two tanks are going to converge on Cherbourg to open up the combat with. So they will be attacking from here and here. And then the Marines will be attacking from the sea, which will be a third province, adding to the combat width overall, okay? Now, you need to plan this out. So these two guys need to go before the Marines ever get there, because otherwise it won't work. What do we mean by that? So these guys need to be like landing-ish just beforehand, and you need to time it out so that your Marines will get there when the tanks... So the Marines will get there when they're attacking, right? Now that those Marines are going to be adding to the combat with, basically what we're trying to do here is get the tanks to initiate combat on Cherbourg. They'll have a two-front wide opening, and then the Marines will land and open it up to a third, so that all of your tanks can get into the battle, and then some of your Marines. That's the perfect ideal of what's going to happen here with this landing. So what are some other considerations? Well, we need to have a perimeter set up somehow, okay? And the best way to do that is with paratroopers. So we have paratroopers. Your paratrooper guy is going to need paratroopers. He's going to need this general trait. This gives a 100% or 200% organization factor for your paratroopers, okay? You're going to need it. Otherwise, your paratroopers are just going to instantly die when they get hit by something. They'll have like one org. This gives them like 6 to 7. It's not much better, but it gives them a chance, okay? So what are some... Where are we going to look to land, right? Again, empty provinces. You can't land on enemy units. Your paratroopers instantly die if they do so, okay? So what we're trying to do is set up a perimeter. So that tile's covered. This one needs to be covered. This one needs to be covered. And this one needs to be covered. So if we set up our paratrooper orders just like that, we can see that it's very possible to completely block off enemy reinforcements, at least for a while, right? So the tanks will be there, and then they will push to Cherbourg, and the paratroopers will land, right? And once they land, they will be able to spread out and cover the other tiles. And these guys right here have the perimeter set up. So that now all this perimeter is set up. I'm not setting up this paratrooper order because we're going to go with a build that I have, right? But this is what you need to consider, is splitting these paratroopers up so that they can cover a whole circle, cutting off all resupply to Cherbourg, which is absolutely going to be needed. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Okay, so now all that is set up, one other factor you have to consider, right? With the new supply changes, you're going to have to... You can't sit all your units on a port anymore, right? Because they're going to be suffering attrition, right? This one has 55 supply. So what you need to do is just take 12 units and move them a province. Okay? Once you move them a province, you can see that the supply status is going to go up here. It's going down here a little bit, but they're all fine, right? They're 100% fine, which it fixes the supply problem immensely. And then if you need to, you can move them out again, but keep them near the port because you're going to need all of your guys to come here to the port and get into the port as soon as you have the landing zone secured, right? So you can do that with all your units. You need to time it out. One last factor you have to consider is when are you going to go, okay? I would recommend you go around it depends on how far your landing site is, right? So if you're landing over here in Malaysia or Bordeaux, you have to plan it out. It's going to take days to get there. Ideally, what you need to do is leave at night, and then so you can get there in the morning. Ideally, you want your guys to get there in the morning so they can do the most damage. Landing at night is bad, but there's not a lot of factors that you can do to control that. Okay, so with that, we're going to go on to the actual landings. And I'm going to show you how all the steps combine and show you how it all works. Okay, so now we're going to put it all together, right? These tanks on the sides are going to be landing with Mulberry Harbors, and these Marines are going to be going in for the port. So what we need to do is we need to know how long each of these is going to take. I know for a fact this one takes a lot longer than these two. This one is almost immediate, this one takes a little bit, and this one takes extremely long time. So what we're going to do is we're going to unassign these units from the naval invasion order, okay? And we're going to initiate the attack. So these guys are going to go in. And like as they're landing, we're going to drop the paratroopers and initiate the all-out assault from everyone else. Because we still have air superiority, everything else is still good. We're just going to wait for them to cross and then land here. Right. See, you can see the AI is still moving guys around, and they still don't know what's happening yet. We're going to initiate almost until we're down. Okay? Now, we're going to go to our paratroopers, initiate the collider assault. They're going to drop, okay? We're going to then use these tanks, and we're going to send them on the order and reinitiate the order. Okay, they're going in. These tanks are almost down. We're going to initiate the naval assault now. The Marines are going to go in. The units have been pair dropped. They're being attacked. That's fine. These tanks are down, okay? Now, we've planned it just perfectly enough. They're going to initiate the attack, and what's going to happen is these Marines are going to come in also on the attack to reinforce them on their combat with side. We're going to keep these paratroopers scattered out. This unit may die, but that's fine. We need to get our job done here. Okay, so now our tanks have initiated the attack. So now they only get the attack penalties of just attacking into the urban terrain. That's it. Just fine, right? That's completely fine. Now our Marines are coming in. They are again opening up the combat with because they're attacking from a new direction. This is how you land on a heavily fortified port, okay? Our units have been parachuted. We're now going to initiate, trying to get in there, and we're going to initiate an attack on this unit, okay? These tanks are now landing. They're going to be attacking this unit too. Once we've broken Cherbourg, we're going to attack this side. We're going to need to break this unit to get our tanks in here. And there we go. Units are gone. Tanks are down. These tanks are landing. Now we have a beachhead. So now we have secured a beachhead and we've killed all the units inside. So now we're going to get all of our rest of our guys into the fight. Okay? So to get the rest of our guys in the fight, we're just going to take an overview right now because we're not on time. Okay? So the AI is reacting like how a player would. They're going to send out their fleets, right? But your fleet is engaging their fleet and covering your guys. So this isn't a problem. We've taken care of this. Okay? Now we need to send the rest of our boys in. Depending on how much supply is in this zone or how much of the zone you got, how much you think it is, you can just send your varying units. But I'm going to send absolutely everybody in, okay? Now, the reason for this is because we need as maximum amount of guys in here as possible before they have a chance to respond, okay? One other factor we have to remember is these transport planes are not useless. We need to put them on this order and drop air resupply. This will increase the supply in this zone, okay? Now, we're going to delete all the orders that are on this tile because the AI is going to do weird things, okay? Our paratroopers need to hold the perimeter and our tanks need to break through, okay? So when you're doing a D-Day, if you don't have Brest, secure it. Or if you land over here, you need to secure Brest. Why? Because it's a vital corridor for supplies and it's a lot easier to get guys over here and hold on perimeter. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to initiate attack to secure Brest while the rest of our guys are landing. Okay, the paratroopers should be able to hold out as long as possible because they're basically Space Marines. Alright, so we're going to get our tanks going as fast as possible. Down these ravines, all the way up here. They're launching a counterattack against us. This is all normal. It's part of the course. We need to get these Marines down here, start attacking best we can, because they're sending a lot of reinforcements. Okay, we need to break through, secure Brest before any more reinforcements get over here, and we can overrun their positions. I left a tank back there, but that's fine. We have way more than enough to break through to Brest. Keep initiating attacks until you secure this beachhead over here. Now that these units are almost here, we're going to do something. So these guys haven't been set up on an order, which is fine, because what we're going to do is set them up on their orders now. We're going to select the field marshal, get his line assigned. Once he's assigned there, we're going to draw an order, and basically everyone is hostile to us, okay? So he's going to initiate attacks on all of this side and reinforce this line as fast as he can, which is what you need him to do. Okay, we're still breaking through to Brest. We basically have that side mopped up. Now, what you can do with your paratroopers here is basically you can send them into vital points to hold, right? Our units have landed, so we're going to get some more guys out here. But you can use your paratroopers and your Amtraks after they've landed to hold vital key sectors. So, right, one of the key sectors we need to get to is Paris, first of all. So we're just going to keep initiating assaults until we can get to Paris. We don't have all of our guys yet, but that's fine. Element of surprise is with us right now. Focus all of our attacks on Brest. Neutralize all the targets. Okay, now that we have Brest secured, we're gonna have to get supplies in here, right? But we have to replace the supply depots, and we also have to connect them to the capital, which is fine. So we have these airfields secured. Make sure you move your planes over when you can, right? But we need the supply right now, so we're not going to do it, and we still have complete air control. If you needed to, you can move your planes over now, but it's fine. So what we're going to do is initiate all of our tanks over here, and we're going to go for the capital. We're having more forces land, which is fine. We're going to initiate assaults if we can, and try and break through to Paris. We're going to initiate attack with our field marshal to buy us some time. Right? And we just have to keep going. Just keep going and keep expanding the perimeter. The more the perimeter you can get, the better. And what they've done is a very crucial step, right? They've popped it now, but we've kept ours hidden, right? So what we can do now is if we initiate it, we can, if we have the thing, right? But we don't, because the AI upgrades and does weird things. But you can pop the chronology thing, and it will help you in this invasion right now. Now we're initiating an armor assault. Our units are following up, which is exactly what they're supposed to do. We've broken through, we cut off some units. We need to keep going as fast as we can to Paris. And our units will take care of anything else behind us, so it's fine. We just keep arriving on to Paris. They're sending armored forces down here. We're going to bypass them because we have different tank models. We have anti-tank division specifically to deal with those tanks, right? So we're going to have them deal with those tanks in a minute, but we need to secure. Okay, so now we're being attacked by their actual tanks, and our actual tank divisions are going to counterattack them, right? Actual tank divisions are now going to counterattack them, and we're just going to keep driving as fast as we can to Paris. Okay, Paris has been secured, and that's where we're going to leave off the guy, okay? Now that you have Paris, I would recommend you send your paratroopers to guard Paris as basically as a last resort, guard anything else. But now you now actually have a solid beachhead that's not really in danger of being overrun. They're sending forces over here, but if you keep going with your tanks and keep encircling, you'll be fine. Other than that, on to the conclusion. Okay, so in conclusion, you should know now how to land against opposing landings as an advanced way of doing it, rather than just hoping your Marines can do it. There's a variety of ways you need to factor in to actually land. Your intelligence, your Air Force, your Navy, and then finally your landing sites and your Army. They're all contributing factors. Other than that, if you found this guide helpful, please subscribe. We'll be making more of these. Please leave a like, leave a comment. I will be making one more of these guides, an expert guide, which is going to be showing off if they have armored on the actual port and do they have an armored reserve and a whole bunch of other factors. But this was just an advanced guide for you players that need to know how to break a landing site. This is for you. Other than that, have a nice day.